Good Lord. I'm going to try to recover from a power surge here. It's like they turned the electricity off. No, they didn't. Because obviously I'm on the air, so.
Hi, this is Joe. Please leave a message.
And there's Joe
At the tone, please record your message.
We're going to leave a message for Joe Calderwood.
You may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Joe Calderwood, it is James Lowe from KJAG Radio calling you for your radio interview. We will call you back. Appreciate it. And we are going to do this. We are going to take a quick break. And give me a minute here.
This is Jason Roberts with the Wealth Investors Minute. I had an opportunity to speak with a 30-year-old man the other day who wanted to know if I could outline a specific plan so that he could turn into a millionaire by the time he retired. I wish more people asked that question. I told him first save $30,000, which he'd already done. Next, I outlined how he could create a $15,000 annual income from that first $30,000 through a joint venture real estate partnership program. In 2 years, when he saved another $30,000, buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, renovate it, and turn it over to a property manager. The average purchase price should be around $90,000 and will require about $15,000 in repairs. Use a standard 80-20 mortgage. After that, every 2 years, purchase another property until he turns 53. The result, by the time he's 70, he will have roughly 10 properties worth $2 million, earning around $14,000 a month. All this beginning with just $30,000, mind you. This is Jason Roberts with the Wealth Investors Minute.
Welcome to the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar radio program.
Raw and uncut, Jiggy Jag, you know how you do it. You know what I'm saying? Keeping it all the way live.
Broadcasting live from Hutchinson, Kansas.
Well, I'm sitting here with a linguist. I had no idea. I didn't know you were, but I didn't know that you were a wordsmith.
Call Jiggy right now. 267-22-JIGGY.
Hey Jiggy, what's happening, man? Reminds me of that David Bowie song. Jiggy play guitar. It's a great name, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Presenting.
I'm Mike Massey, and you can catch me on Jiggy Jag TV and see a few of my trick shots there. Thanks very much.
Jiggy Jaguar.
I never knew what freedom was until I saw you lose yours.
The band was called Power Station, by the way. It is the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar radio broadcast. It is a Sunday radio show, coast to coast and border to border on the mix. All Tuesdays. Welcome to the world-famous big broadcast. Joel Calderwood is up first. We're going to call him here in just a few seconds and get him locked in and got him loaded here on our big program. Let's try him. Let's see where Joel Calderwood is.
Please leave.
At the tone, please record your message.
We're going to leave a message for Joel again.
When you finish recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Joel, how are you? It is James Lowe calling you one more time for your radio interview. Give us a holler back here, or we'll keep calling. Appreciate it. There went Joel Calderwood. So let's try him one more time here. Let's try Joel Calderwood. I believe we may have Joel Calderwood. Hey, Joel, how are you, my friend?
I could not be better. How are you doing?
Pretty good. After a power surge here at the studio, we are back and live. And Joel Calderwood joins us here on our big broadcast, coast to coast, border to border, on TuneIn, iTunes, Radio Loyalty, and of course the Mix, all Tuesdays. And we are going to get a hold of Jae Wells, our co-host here, and bring her into the conversation. Thanks for joining us here on The Mix. Thanks for joining us here on iHeartRadio, AM, FM, 247.com, TuneIn, iTunes, and Radio Loyalty. And Joel Calderwood is our first guest here on our big broadcast. And Stained Fortune, a crime story by Joel Calderwood, is our first topic here. And Joel, tell me and Jay a little bit about yourself and a little bit about this book.
Okay, a little bit about myself. I'm I call a serial entrepreneur. I went in business after I got out of college, went in business for myself as a certified public accountant and a consultant. Did that, and after about 3 years of that, started another business with a family member, which was what we now call assisted living. And so I've always had at least 2 business ventures and a variety of clients and people I've met through those businesses. And so that's been my business career. And I grew up in the agricultural area of Miami, Florida, which a lot of people, kind of throws them because they think of South Beach and all that stuff. But my father was a farmer down there on about 65 acres, and I grew up in that kind of environment, and my grandparents were pioneers down there, some of the earliest people that were working with Henry Flagler, that was a railroad man building the railroad that brought people down there, started in Palm Beach all the way to Key West. So I grew up around all those stories, true stories about how all that went in the early days of 1900.
Joel Calderwood with us today. He joins us live on Skype audio, and we also have Jae Wells with us today. She's going to ride shotgun and co-host the big broadcast with us today here on the broadcast. How are you feeling today, Jay? I know that you're you've got some medical issues, but you sound and look well, at least from the photo that I put up.
I should earn the Actress of the Year award.
Now, Joel, tell me and Jay about your book here.
Okay, well, the book, it is fiction, and it's a crime story, and it's one of 3 books. We're just coming out with the second one that's called Money Faucet. But anyway, this particular book is, I was writing a memoir, and I went to take a writing class at the university here where I live in Asheville, North Carolina. And they had 2 classes, one on memoir and one on fiction. And I found I enjoyed the fiction and started writing a short story. That's where the story began, Stained Fortune, about a young man, early 30s, this character, protagonist, his name is Clint, and how this character would do just about anything to make money, and he'd got into some tangles, and he was from the Miami area and had all kinds of connections. So that's the main character that has some of my traits, but there's things he did that I would never consider doing, and ended up laundering money, moved to Mexico, laundered money for some of the drug kings there, and made a fortune out of it. And that's where, when I'd finished the book, I thought, well, he made a fortune, but it's not from normal channels of business, so I call it Stained Fortune.
How long has the book been out?
It came out in May of last year.
Do you have any quotes that you really like about it?
From reviews and different things?
Yes.
Here's one of the reviews. Brilliant, especially for a first book. Well done, Joe Calderwood. Great storyline. I could not put the book down after just reading the first few pages. Scene and character description was elegant, excellent. Loved the gay characters that were on top of business. I've got another one, said, captured me from the start. Superb character development. Felt as though I knew them. Couldn't wait to find out what was going to happen next. Loved the surprise twists and turns. Very well written. Thoroughly enjoyed the book. I've got about 7, and they're posted on Goodreads and Amazon. And it really is encouraging, for people I don't know to make a review. And usually it's about, out of 5 stars, it's normally 4 to 5 stars.
What kind of editing process did you have to go through? Did you hire editors?
Yes, I hired an editor, Lynn Vanucci, who's written books before as an editor, And so when I had written all of this material, figure it's my first book. So as I got into it, and I started it as a short story, about 3,000 words, is the original title I had for it was The Second Time I Went to Prison. Well, everybody, that grabbed them, and that's the idea, is when you write something, you need to get somebody's attention from the beginning to get them to start reading and go on from there. So that's why I use that title, would create a question in somebody's mind. Well, good God, the second time I went to prison, what'd you go to prison for the first time? As this continued, I thought, well, the short story went fine, and everybody in the class, when we took a break, when I read my short story, because you had to do that in the class, is they said, you've been to prison? I said, no, this is fiction. I've never been to prison. I've just made this up. So it seemed so believable. And the teachers told me that, she said, that's quite a tale, you've come up with. And that's all I need is a little encouragement. And off I went. I started writing more about it. And I got to like 20,000 words. And the writing teacher and I became pretty good friends, and we had a little group that would meet. And she said, I think you can make a book out of it. And I got up to about 80,000 words, and I couldn't come up with an ending, so I had to edit it myself, which is very laborious and time-consuming and boring because you keep reading the same thing over and over. I finally hired...
Oh, my God. You cannot imagine. I can imagine. Your book is 80,000 words?
Well, this book ended up being about 65,000 or 70,000, so when we got finished. But here was the thing. It was 370 pages, and it was overwhelming. So my writing teacher said, I have a friend that does editing. Why don't you... And I felt like, oh, my God. Send this to a legitimate editor. They're going to throw it in the trash or something. So after 3 days, the woman called. She says, man, I love this. And she said, well, I've got to clean it up, and I hope you're not sensitive about things. I said, no, that's your job. I used to tell people when I was practicing as a CPA, you have to hire the right professional for things. So I'm a big boy. You can tell me anything you want to. Just tell me you love the storyline, but you can take it apart grammatically and the wrong phrases.
My brain's not focusing. What's a CPA?
Certified Public Accountant.
Oh, okay.
And they're usually boring as hell, but I'm not. And, so anyway, I thought, I started reading, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to send it to her the way it is. And I had came up with a really lame ending because I couldn't stop. I just kept writing more and more. And so she helped me immensely. And then we went to Water Street Press. And that's how I got it published.
Sweet.
And now my second book will be out.
Is it a series, or is the second book a different category?
No, it's what I call the Clint. Clint is the protagonist, so the main character is Clint Kennedy. So these 3 books will be the Clint Kennedy series about this whole way that he developed this laundering of the money, what he did with the money, how he's going to get redeemed at the end, kind of. And,
did I hear you say that you had gay characters in it?
Yeah, Clint Kennedy he calls himself bisexual, but when he got arrested the first time in Miami, he moved to Mexico to get a new start. But when he was in Miami, he had done well, nice-looking chap, smart, did well in college. He had run an escort business because that was a way to make money, and that's what he did.
Is this book for like 15 and up or 18 and up? I mean, how graphic do the scenes get?
Oh yeah, it's not graphic. Yeah, it's there's not graphic scenes about sex in there. There's innuendos about somebody going to bed with the same sex, but not details of what happened. So is it
categorized as adult or young adult?
I'd say young adult.
Okay, so you haven't
I got the 15-year-olds I've met today know more than I do about anything, and I'm 70.
You're 70?
I am.
Wow. So this is like a huge accomplishment for like something off the bucket list.
Yeah. I thought about writing a book probably 40 years ago, and it was going to be nonfiction because I found all the business people I was around and people wanting to have business needed to have some kind of business plan to look at what they're really doing. So I came up with an idea for a book called Time for Success. And that's the real bottom line is, if you've got a good idea, your business could be successful, but it's going to come down to time. And then the time is going to dictate if it's going to take you a year or 2 years or 5 years. But do you have that time to develop this business and the money that it's going to take? But that's when I started thinking about writing, and I would write about that, put it together, because I got to thinking being a CPA, an accountant, a businessman, you're really working one side of your brain. So I was never interested in being, even though I like music, as I thought this would be an outlet for me that would be using the other side of my brain and the creativity, even though a lot of times an accountant, tax accountant, is artistic in a way, and what they're arriving at and all the jumbled up stuff they get. But anyway, I always wanted to write. So yes, you're kind of right in a way that it's on a bucket list, because 10 years ago, when we actually moved to Mexico, that's how Mexico becomes the city and the country in this book, because I was familiar with it. We lived there 2.5 years. While I was there, I was around other writers that I met, and they had written books, and I'd tell them stories how I grew up, and they said, man, you ought to write some of this stuff down. So that kind of fueled the fire. All you got to do is give me some kind of push, and I'm raring to go.
How soon do you have any like everyday distractions? Because my first sci-fi is 110,000, and I'm shooting for 150,000 for the second book, and I've got distractions like kids and a farm and work and
I'm a developer. Yeah, I have a 62 lot development that I started 5 years ago, and we've just signed we're building 6 houses. So yeah, I've got plenty of distractions. Plus my spouse, we've been together 37 years. We've been married 3 years because it became legal. I'm gay, and it was never legal, and I never thought I'd see it, and it wasn't even financially smart to get married, but I did it because we could. So I've got plenty of distractions.
So how soon do you see yourself knocking out the next book?
The next book is finished. Now we're working on the third book.
Awesome.
And then I'm working closer with my editor, because I came up with an outline of what the third book needs to be, and needs to be the ending of this thing, and what I'm doing now too. So I've probably got ADD and all those other conditions that I'm always on. And I think most successful business people actually are. And so I'm working on a nonfiction book. I've already written 2 chapters of it. So it's but I love doing it.
Pretty good accomplishment. I'm very proud of you.
Thanks.
We've got Joel Calderwood.
What is your book about?
Yes, Jay, tell him a little bit about your books.
In the last year, I've been knocking out some old projects myself, but my biggest accomplishment would be my 110,000 soft science fiction novel that questions the heart of humanity when a group of kidnapped individuals are unlawfully experimented on and turned into basically mermaids.
Wow. Interesting.
Well, Joel, we're kind of up against the clock here, my friend, for our next guest. But before we let you go, how do we get the book? How do we find you on social media? Give us all the details, my friend.
Okay. Yeah, so on Facebook, it's my name, Joe Calderwood. There's a couple of different Calderwoods on there, Joe Calderwood, but Joe Calderwood, Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay.
So I'll be on there. And on Instagram, it's one word of Stained Fortune. So you can find it on there.
Okay.
My book is available on Amazon or Barnes & Noble online.
Awesome.
And you can get it in the Kindle version or the paperback version. So if any of the readers do go forward, I would appreciate them, purchasing the book and especially do a review, whether they like it, don't like it, but do a review on Goodreads.
Yes,
Or,
honesty helps for reviews.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. That's what my writing teacher says. You've had all good reviews. You're going to get a bad one of these days. And that's what I learned from my first mentor. In my first business, my mentor said, you're going to find out 10% of your clients are going to be 90% of your problems. And it's true. 90% of the people are fine. 10% are going to have a problem with whatever you do. So it's fine. So I'm looking for people to do a review and give me their comments and their thoughts about the book.
Well, Joel, we've appreciated having you on. I definitely am looking forward to that next book. When do you believe that'll be out and running?
Should be out and available in about, I'm going to guess, 3 months. Because we're finished. It's going to the publisher. And it's going to be, name of it is Money Faucet.